White snow covered the forest. The group led by Wei Pang was galloping forward on horseback. The horse's hooves quickly bounced up and down, causing the white snow on the ground to splash. The group of people did not stop for a moment but quickly rushed away. Honor word, 1 kill, Joe Pill. If there is an opponent he cares about, he always asks a question before brutally killing them. Remembering this, Wei Pang gritted his teeth and thought, I can't let that monster meet him. I need to quickly find the third young master. After thinking about it, Wei Pang immediately whipped his horse and loudly urged him to run faster. The group rushed away in the wind and snow. Wei Pang thought, if I fail I will not be able to face my lord.
Under the thick snow a body was lying there. The wound on this body was caused by a spear tip. Joe Pill furrowed his eyebrows and thought they were all killed in an attack, especially in the final attack. Huk Sandu's chest was punctured cleanly. Who did this? A martial arts master from the Jin family and Tai Yuan, or maybe a mysterious character, but there won't be any problems in that case. The hunt will be fun. Thinking so, Joe Pill immediately bent down to examine Hyendu's body with a large hole in his chest. A moment later one of his subordinates come forward to report.
I am here to make a report to the Great Brother.
Hearing that, Joe Pill immediately told him to tell me.
This subordinate had a long scar on his face from his forehead down to his chin. He arranged his words a bit and then said, we discovered a group of 7 or 8 people and one of them was injured. They seemed they had long left their house and headed towards the mountains towards Taiyuan.
Hearing this information, Joe Pill nodded with satisfaction and said, good, continue watching. As soon as these words ended, a cold voice suddenly rang out behind.
Joe Pill, did you forget what our family head has ordered us to do?
When Joe Pill heard this, he suddenly stopped in alertness. Behind Joe Pill a group of people wearing hats and purple robes appeared, who didn't know when he looked at this group of people and then acted like nothing happened, opened his arms and laughed, admitting, oh right, I forgot, it's all about what the homeowner says. Reducing the smile on his face, he questioned in a harsh voice, but what does the command you said mean? I only remember being authorized.
The person who spoke just now immediately objected that these two things were the same. I've been asked to regroup the main forces after eliminating the people of Shuzhou. We have forgiven your decision to disobey orders, but we will not allow you to continue illegal actions like this.
Joe Pill did not pay much attention to this problem. He raised his hand to the corner of his mouth and said, allow you to speak. Allow. Having said this, he suddenly stopped for a moment, then continued in a cold voice, this is impossible because I really don't like this word.
It is extremely difficult for the other person to hear that. He raised his eyebrows and said, what are you doing? But before he could finish his sentence, Joe Pill approached and squeezed his neck. In just a blink of an eye, this man stopped breathing and was thrown to the ground by Joe Pill.
He retracted his hand and coldly said to the rest, you see, this is why I love war.
Seeing this scene, the group of people were extremely frightened and immediately pulled out their swords and exclaimed, what, you bastard?
Joe Pill grinned without paying attention. His eyes flashed bloodthirsty red, his hand raised in preparation to attack. In just a blink of an eye, Joe Pill slashed with his bare hands at amazing speed, sending blood flying everywhere. He just reached out with his bare hands and immediately sent the group flying back. The group of people had absolutely no ability to resist and were knocked down onto the snowy ground, not knowing whether they lived or died. Joe Pill retracted his hand. He licked the corner of his mouth happily and said, and that's because I can't remember all the people I killed. Standing up straight, Joe Pill turned back and ordered, we will continue the chase.
Strong footsteps sink deep into the thick layer of snow. A group of people followed each other forward after walking a long way. The person in front immediately stopped, his hand resting on the snow-covered tree trunk next to him. In front of the group is a small cave entrance. This group of people is Jin Kyung's group. He said, we will sleep here tonight. The dark night falls, the bright moon hangs high in the sky in the cave. Jin Kyung's subordinates were sleeping. Sichel hugged his sister. Seo yelled tightly. Lying on one side in the middle is a burning red fire, making the space in the cave somewhat warmer. Jin T Kyung and Gong Chong are sitting in front of the fire. Jin T Kyung raised his head and said, it's a good thing we were able to find this place. Not only is it good at sheltering us from the snow, it's also able to keep most of the light from leaking out. Having said that, Jin Kyung stopped and observed Gong Chung. Gong Chung remained silent and said nothing. Jin T Kyung thought to himself, does he know that he is involved in this war? Most people have some sort of reaction, but after the events there he didn't say a word. I guess I was the only one worried. Thinking like that, Jin T Kyung immediately glanced at the group of people sleeping. He gritted his teeth and silently scolded, oh, it's because of that bastard Humu Jin. While thinking about this, Gong Chung suddenly spoke up.
I was told that you were known to be a lazy and arrogant bastard, and did not know any martial arts. Although I've only known you for 2 days, I can tell the Jin T Kyung I'm seeing is nothing like those rumors.
Jin T Kyung didn't understand.
Gong Chung continued, that's why. It makes me wonder how much I should believe of the rumors behind our war with the Mount Hung Sword sector.
Jin T Kyung thought silently, just as I thought. He knew who I was. The atmosphere between the two people fell into silence again. Suddenly Gang Chung called out,
Master Jin.
Jin T Kyung heard it and immediately replied yes.
Gong Chung coughed a few times before trembling and said, I have a question. Before he could finish his sentence, he coughed up a mouthful of fresh blood.
Jin T Kyung saw that and furrowed his eyebrows, a bit worried. He stood up and asked, what the hell? Are you okay?
Gong Chung looked at the blood in his palm and said, nothing. A moment later, he slowly said, they are sly bastards. They smeared poison on weapons.
Hearing that, Jin Tae-kyung immediately asked, what do you mean, why didn't you tell us sooner?
The poison they used must have been a cheap one, since the effects were pretty weak. But once my condition worsened, it was too late for me to do anything about it.
Hearing this, Jin Tae-kyung worriedly thought to himself, he is in a very bad condition. Do I have any medicine to cure him? He searched the system's menu from top to bottom. He silently said, no clothes. Well, what about the cereal pills? No, they don't have any antidote properties at all. Damn, the rest of the items are just shields. I don't have anything. The only thing I have is a weapon. Jin Tae-kyung is on one side trying to search.
Gong Chung sits in one place quietly, turning his head to look at the two sleeping babies, Se-chan and Se-yu. Suddenly he called out, Master Jin.
Jin Tae-kyung heard the call and immediately turned around only to hear
Gong Chung say, children, I ask you to take care of them. Gong Chung's face was now drenched in sweat as if in pain from the poison.
Jin Tae-kyung stood still, looking at him, speechless. At this moment the system rang out a new notification.
Gong Chung's last mission request. The man only wants one thing, which is to ask you to escort the children back to their homes safely. Mission level no restrictions, only Jin Kyung. Mission objective: safe, protect Seo-chan and Se-yu. Mission reward none.